In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I set up the search, sort, and filtering functionality on booknotes.ai. Plus, I'm going to be showing you a real awesome tool that allows me to sort all of my books by Google Analytics page views. So without further ado, let's get into it. What's going on, friends? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the third video on booknotes.ai. Now, in the previous two videos, I showed you how I used AI to basically create landing pages for my favorite books. In this video today, I'm going to be showing you how we can create directory pages and specifically include things like search, filtering, and sort functionality that will make the overall user experience a lot better. Okay, so the tools that I used in order to create this type of functionality is, for starters, Reloom, which allowed me to quickly import a filters page. Then I used Finsweet attributes to create the search and filtering functionality. Then I also used Google Analytics to basically see how many page views individual books were getting. And then I used a tool called a data fetcher, which is an Airtable extension, to import those Google Analytics page views so that I could then use WhaleSync to send that data to the Webflow CMS into the field that holds all of my page views. Now, once again, just for time purposes, I'm going to be keeping things reasonably high level. I will be going into a little bit of detail when it comes to data fetcher, but if you want to learn more about these things, if you want more in-depth tutorials, then head on over to my website. I make a whole bunch of tutorials that do not make it to my YouTube channel, and if you want to find out whenever they get posted to my website, then just sign up to the newsletter and I'll notify you as soon as it is published. With all of that being said, let's dive straight into the first part, which is to set up these pages inside of Webflow. Okay, so as you know from my previous videos, I use a tool called Reloom to quickly import components. And if you want to set up a listing page, then there are a whole bunch of category filter pages available to you. And so what I typically do is I just start off by finding one that I think is good. So let's take filters 2 here. Then you just need to head into your Webflow project, and I'd recommend using the recommended class structures from Finsweet. I'll leave some resources to learn more about that down below. But then all you need to do is to just paste what you got from Reloom into your project. Now, the cool thing about this is that, as you can see, all of my styles are automatically applied, and that is because I'm using a Chrome extension from Reloom called Class Sync that allows me to automatically apply styles that I already have on the site to some of these components that I'm adding. And as soon as that is done, it's just a matter of keeping the ones that you need and removing the ones that you don't need. And so typically at this stage, what I'll do is I'll just go through the different groups of filters that are available to me. So you can see here, I've got a filter group with all of these checkboxes. And then if I need it, I keep it. If I don't, I remove it. You'll see you'll have all of the options available to you. And then as soon as you are good to go, it's time for the next step, which is to import your collection lists. Now, the collection list that I imported is just simply my books collection. And as soon as you import it, you might want to add certain types of styling. Now, all I did to just make it super fast is I just went to the homepage, I grabbed one of my pre-built book link items, and then I just simply copy and pasted it into my collections page, and that will then create something that looks like this. Now, there's some additional functionality that you can add to your collection list. For example, you can sort it and filter it by different values in advance. But in order for you to create the live search and filtering functionality that your website visitors can use, you'll have to use a tool called Finsweet attributes. Now, if you've watched videos on my channel before, you'll know that I've used a tool called JetBoost in the past to create the search and filtering functionality, but there's actually an alternative now called Finsweet attributes that gives you the exact same type of functionality, if not more. And the big perk about all of this is it is free. Now, the way that it works is that you simply apply attributes to different elements on your page. So for example, if I am going to use this search input to basically filter the collection list, then what I'll need to do is add these attributes to my search input, but also to the elements that I want to search and filter things by. And so you can see here that if I want to filter in my search bar by a name, then what I need to do is apply an attribute to that particular element. Now, I recommend checking out the documentation on the Finsweet website, but as you can see, the search and filtering is super fast. It works super flawlessly. And one of the key advantages of using the Readloom library is that a lot of the components that they have that contain search and filtering actually come with the Finsweet attributes added, which means that all you'll need to do is to just replace some of the values with the name of the field that you want to search by. Now, another attribute library that I used in order to create functionality on my listing pages is CMS Sort. And basically what you can do is you can sort your collection list based on certain values. Now, you can see here, I can sort all of my collection list items by name. So you'll see that all of the A's start off first. You can do the same thing in reverse, but then there are also things that you can do, for example, sorting it by the most recent books that have been added, or by sorting it based on the amount of page views that one of these books has inside of Google Analytics. Now, in order for me to create this functionality, I had to add two new fields to my books collection inside of Webflow. One for the amount of pages that a book has, and then one for the amount of page views that a book received on Google Analytics. Now, the pages number is simply a value that I retrieve when I get the book from Amazon. It basically tells me how many pages a book has, but then there is also the value for my page views that updates every single day with the amount of page views that a book has received inside of Google Analytics. And so in order to get this functionality to work, the first thing that you're going to need to do is to set up Google Analytics for your site. You simply head on over to Google Analytics. You will be able to get a script, and then all you need to do is just install that script on your Webflow site, and then you'll see that you'll be able to track exactly how many views a book received, how many users a book received, and then you can use that information inside of Webflow to sort your collection list. Now, the way that I get all of my Google Analytics page views into Airtable is by using a tool called Data Fetcher. Now, Data Fetcher is an Airtable extension that basically allows you to import data from third-party APIs, and they've got a whole bunch of different integration, for example, Google Analytics, but they also have an integration with Webflow. They also have an integration with tools like Stripe. So they cover a whole bunch of different use cases if you want to import data from different databases. Now, the way that you can get Data Fetcher set up inside of your Airtable base is to simply head over to the extension tab, then add an extension, and then search for Data Fetcher, and you'll see that it pops up pretty much immediately. All you need to do then is just simply add the extension, and that will then take you to the point where you can configure it. Now, in order to get this all up and running, you will need to create an account. I already have an account, so I'm just going to log in. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to have to do once you've signed in is to create your first request. Now, in order to make this happen, you simply have to select the app that you want to pull data from. So in my case, it's Google Analytics 4. You'll be able to connect your account, which I have already done. And then from here, you'll be able to start configuring your fields. Now, what do I want to do? First of all, I want to select my site. So in this case, it's booknotes.ai. Then my property, I only have one. And then you can start selecting the date range. Now, depending on what number you want to use, I typically just like to use the last 30 days, and I'll also include today. And that basically will determine what number gets retrieved and then stored inside of Airtable. Next, what we can do is we have to tell Data Fetcher what information we want them to retrieve. Now, you'll be able to get a whole bunch of different metrics from Google Analytics, but the ones that I want is views, because I want to essentially store the number of page views inside of Webflow. And then all you need to do is to split it by the individual pages. So what we want to do is we want to split, instead of getting all of the page views for the entire site, we want to break it down by individual page. And so just like that, I'm now pulling in all of the page views over the last 30 days, including today, and I am splitting them into the different pages. Now, I don't need to retrieve all of the information. All I need to do is just to select it based on the book being a landing page. And so if I click into one of my books, you'll see that they all have the book slug in it. And so all I need to do is just to simply jump in here. I will then go back into my setup and I will say only retrieve the page views if the path contains book. Now, depending on your setup, you might want to actually change your URL so that it doesn't pull it in from all of your subdomains. So in my case, what I'm looking for is this. Okay, so now that we've got all of this configured, next we want to move on to the step where we can basically determine how exactly we're going to be using the data that we get from Google Analytics. And so when you head into the advanced setting mode, the first thing that you need to do is make sure that you've got update selected and not append. What update does is it basically updates existing records inside of Airtable, and that is exactly what we want to do. The next thing that we want to make sure of is that we turn off the create records button. And the reason why we want to turn this off is because if the page does not exist inside of our books table, then we don't want a new record created. Now, another thing to do that is very important is to basically tell data fetcher what field they should compare. So for example, Google Analytics is going to have a value that we can then match up with a value inside of Airtable, and the value that we're going to be using is the actual page URL. And so what we're going to do is we're simply going to specify that the field that we're going to be basing our update on is the URL field. And so just to summarize what this will do, data fetcher will look at a URL inside of Google Analytics and it will then try and match it up with a URL that sits inside of our books table. And if they do match up, it will then store those page views inside of that particular record inside of Airtable. So what we need to do then is just simply leave the rest and then click on the run button. Now, as soon as the run button comes up, you will see that you are now able to map your fields. And so what we want to do is we want to turn on our full page URL field and our views field. And so you'll have the option between choosing an existing field or a new field. And what we want to do in both cases is choose the existing field. Now, the existing field for the full page URL is simply going to be our URL field. And basically, you can't expand this here, unfortunately, but those URLs have to match up. Then for views, if you haven't already created a field for your views, you can just leave it on new field. Otherwise, if you already do have it and you know where you want to store these values, you can simply store it under the field that you set up to store those page views. And as soon as that is done, all you need to do is click on save and run and you'll be good to go. Now, just to give you a quick little demo as to how fast this runs, now whenever I hit the run button, it will now automatically populate my page views field inside of my books table with the amount of page views that I have had. And just like that, you'll be able to now set it on a schedule that basically runs every single day. All you need to do is to get your API key, add it, and then determine when you want to run this workflow. Now, one last little thing that we're going to have to do in order to make use of our Google Analytics page views is to add our field to our collection inside of Webflow. And then as soon as that has been added, then we'll head into Whale Sync, which we've been using in order to sync data between Airtable and Webflow. And then from there, all we need to do is just link up those pages. So we have our page views field inside of the Webflow CMS collection and our page views Google Analytics inside of Airtable. And all you need to do is just map those fields up to each other. And then as soon as that is done, all you need to do is turn it on and all of the syncing will start happening automatically. And just like that, we have now set up the functionality that for starters allows us to search for collection items inside of our books collection. We can now also sort alphabetically. We can sort by the amount of pages that a book has, but my personal favorite one is we can now also sort by the amount of page views that a particular collection item has inside of Google Analytics. And so that is my update for this week on booknotes.ai. If you think I should build any specific features for this, please let me know. I'll be filming how I create different things for this site. If you want to learn more about building these types of sites, head on over to the website, sign up to my newsletter, link down below. Other than that, thank you so much for sticking around for the entire video, and I'll see you back here for the next one.